Welcome back to Besleepy Storytelling. Tonight we continue with part 3 of Sailor's Voyages, Whispers Over the Waves. The night grows heavier, the whispers sharper, and the sea seems unwilling to give up its secrets. I'm glad you've returned to join me on this voyage. If you enjoy these stories, please remember to like this video and subscribe so you won't miss the chapters still to come. Now get comfortable, relax, and let's return to the story.
Part 3. The Drowning Choir. James didn't sleep after the fire. He couldn't. Every time his eyes fluttered shut, he saw their faces rising from the waves, smiling with waterlogged joy, mouths gaping wide as they reached for him. The charred rail was proof it had happened. The oily black streaks, the burn marks etched into the seabird's wood, physical scars of something no rational world could explain. He huddled in the cockpit, knife back in his grip, a second lantern at his feet. He had only one spare. He prayed he wouldn't need it. The sea was deceptively calm, lapping softly against the hull as though mocking his terror. Overhead, the sky stretched cloudless, the moon round and indifferent. By rights, it should have been beautiful, but to James it felt wrong, too still, too expectant, like the world was holding its breath. Hours crawled by, the night air gnawed through his jacket, his body trembling as much from cold as from dread. He fought the heaviness in his eyes, the seductive pull of sleep, until finally exhaustion dragged him under despite his will. He dreamed of children. Not the ones in the sea, real ones. A playground at dusk, swings squeaking, laughter ringing through the air. He saw his younger self standing at the edge, hands shoved deep in his pockets, always watching, never joining. Even in dreams, loneliness clung to him like a second skin. Then the laughter soured, warping into the chorus of voices that had haunted him for days. The swings twisted, chains snapping taut as the children hanging from them grinned too wide, eyes glassy. They all turned toward him. "Come play, James." He woke screaming. The sea was still. Dawn smeared a pale glow across the horizon. James clutched the knife, his breath ragged. The voices had been in his head. He was sure of it. But when he looked down, the deck was wet. Small prints dotted the wood, trailing toward the bow. Fresh. His stomach dropped. They had been here again. He staggered forward, following the prints. They ended at the bow, vanishing over the side. He leaned out, peering into the water. For a moment, all he saw was his own reflection, hollow-eyed, gaunt. Then another face appeared beside his, a child's. James jerked back, stumbling onto the deck. His heart rammed against his ribs, throat dry as dust. He dared another glance, but the water was empty, just sea. The laughter started again, faint but growing, drifting from all directions. James's hands shook so badly he almost dropped the knife. "No more," he whispered, "no more." He retreated below deck, bolting the hatch. If they wanted him, they'd have to tear the boat apart. He lit the lantern and sat against the door, knife across his lap. The whispers began almost immediately, at first faint, like wind threading through cracks, then louder, clearer. "James, don't hide. We're lonely too." He pressed his palms over his ears, rocking back and forth. "Shut up, shut up." The voices giggled, the hull creaked, and water began to drip from the ceiling, steady, deliberate drops that splashed onto the floorboards. James looked up, dread hollowing him out. The seams of the cabin bulged, dark with moisture, as though the sea were seeping in. "No," his voice trembled. "You can't." The lantern flickered, shadows stretching. The walls seemed to breathe, wood pulsing like wet lungs. The air grew thick, heavy with brine, and then from the shadows shapes began to emerge. Children, dozens of them, pale and dripping, crawling out of the wood itself as though the yacht had become porous. Their eyes shone with moonlight, their grins endless. They filled the cabin, surrounding him, whispering, giggling, reaching with wrinkled fingers. James staggered to his feet, knife raised. Stay back. They laughed high and delighted. One leaned close, her voice like a wet whisper. You already belong to us. Panic overtook reason. James slashed at the nearest figure. The blade met no resistance, passing straight through her form as though she were made of mist. The girl only laughed harder, her face splitting into a grotesque grin that stretched ear to ear. They pressed closer, voices overlapping, a maddening chorus. Fall down, fall down, fall down. James bolted for the hatch. He shoved it open and scrambled onto the deck, gulping air thick with salt and terror. The children swarmed after, not climbing but appearing, popping up from the shadows, rising from the very planks beneath his feet. He ran to the stern, lantern swinging wildly, casting grotesque shadows that danced with his pursuers. The sea foamed below, dark and endless. He had nowhere to go. Get away! His scream cracked the night. He hurled the lantern down, glass shattering, flame licking across the deck. The children shrieked in unison, a sound that rattled the rigging. Their forms wavered in the firelight, stretching, warping, then splintering into black smoke that hissed and dissolved into the air. For a moment, just a moment, the deck was empty. James collapsed against the rail, chest heaving, tears stinging his eyes. He was shaking so hard the knife clattered from his grip. He was alive, alone. But deep inside he knew it wasn't over. The reprieve lasted only hours. By afternoon the sea turned against him. Dark clouds gathered, wind tearing at the sails, waves rearing higher. A storm was brewing, sudden and violent. James fought the tiller, the seabird groaning beneath the onslaught. Rain lashed his face, stinging like needles, and in the roar of the storm the voices returned, louder than ever. They sang through the wind, perfectly clear, as though the gale carried their joy. A choir of drowned children, singing nursery rhymes that tangled into one another. Ring around the rosy. Row, row, row your boat. London Bridge is falling down. Their laughter split the thunder, mocking, endless. James screamed into the wind, every nerve on fire. He fought to keep the yacht steady, but the sea rose higher, waves crashing over the deck. The storm was alive, and it was theirs, and then he saw them. In the towering waves, faces pressed against the walls of water, dozens, hundreds, pale and grinning, eyes like lanterns, mouths open in eternal song. Each wave bore them, carrying their bodies upward, arms reaching as though the sea itself were climbing onto his boat. The storm was their choir, and James was their stage. A colossal wave rose ahead, higher than the mast, black against the lightning-streaked sky. For a frozen instant, James saw them all. Countless children, faces stacked upon faces within the wall of water, grinning in unison, mouths moving as one. We all fall down. The wave crashed. James clung to the tiller, body whipped by water, lungs burning as the sea swallowed him whole. The world became salt and darkness and voices pressing into his ears, his mouth, his chest. He couldn't tell where his body ended and theirs began. He was sinking. Small hands gripped him in the black, pulling him deeper. He saw their faces all around, pale and endless, eyes wide with delight. They mouthed words he couldn't hear, but he understood. Stay with us forever. His chest convulsed, bubbles fled his lips, and then a flash. The knife tumbling in the water beside him, glinting in lightning's glow. Instinct roared. James grabbed it, kicking wildly, slashing at the hands clutching him. The blade met nothing, but somehow the grip loosened. He kicked harder, lungs screaming, and clawed upward through the crushing dark. His head broke the surface. He coughed salt and terror, flailing for the boat. By some miracle the seabird still floated, battered but upright. He hauled himself aboard, collapsing onto the deck. The storm still raged, but the voices were gone, for now. James lay there for hours, soaked and shaking, staring at the bruised sky. He should have died. He knew it. The children had almost claimed him, but he had resisted. He had fought. The question was, how long could he keep fighting? Because deep down, he knew the sea wasn't done.
Thank you for listening to Sailor's Voyages, Whispers Over the Waves, Part 3. If you enjoyed tonight's chapter, don't forget to like and subscribe. The final part is coming soon. Part 4 will be the end of this voyage, and the Whispers will finally reveal their truth. Until then, sleep well and dream easy.